What's going on, guys? Nathan Lombardi here with Lambeau Media.
I'm Christian Bergman, former pitcher for the Seattle Mariners and Colorado Rockies.
And welcome back to another episode of the Walk It Off podcast on Walk It Off Wednesday. And make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up on this segment if you haven't already. And make sure to follow us on Instagram as well at walkitoff_podcast. The link will be in the description. And in this week's episode, we will later be joined by a very special guest, Gordon Beckham, where he talks a little bit about the Creed and his Creed impressions. But before we get into that guest appearance, let's talk about two topics. Lucas Giolito for the White Sox threw a no-hitter recently, the first no-hitter of 2020. And not only that, but let's talk about we've been seeing more injuries here in the 2020 season. It at least seems like we've seen more injuries than we really have in the past few years in the MLB, and I really think that's because the players experience a different format for spring training. Christian, what do you think is the biggest reason for this and for us seeing more injuries in this 2020 season?
Yeah, I think that part of it has to do with, just familiarity. Like you're used to getting started, like really going in games again, basically end of February and then all through March and then, season hits. So obviously that didn't play out this year. And, you're kind of in this holding pattern through April, May, and June.
Yeah.
And, you can never really replicate, at least as a pitcher, and I'm sure as a hitter, unless you're, facing live, pitchers in games. But as a pitcher, like you can't replicate that game speed, that game intensity in a bullpen,
Yep.
or even if you went out and played in some adult league or, I don't know, because I've heard of guys that were doing that.
Yeah.
Even if you have a hitter standing in there, it's just not the same as being in a major league, spring training game.
And they're probably not throwing 100 pitches either.
No. So, a lot of guys, you had to deal with this kind of period where there was nothing going on. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And then, doing your best to stay in shape. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we got to go, 3-4 weeks, whatever it was. I don't even think it was 4 weeks. It's like strap it on and get ready to go.
Yeah.
So, I think maybe we're starting to see some of the effects of that because, like the Yankees rotation has just been crushed.
Yeah.
It seems like every team, you look through the news feed and whatever, and somebody else is getting hurt.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I think is causing it. It was just kind of a funky schedule going into this year, and especially with pitchers, I think that was a big risk.
Yeah. I mean, I can agree with you there. I think it's the sole reason that all of these pitchers are experiencing so many injuries is because maybe, during this time off, they didn't get the certain amount of bullpen or game sessions in that they should have gotten in. And I'm not saying some pitchers did, but maybe some players took it rather easy. Took that time off rather easier than they maybe should have, and maybe should have intensified it a little bit more during their time off. That way, when spring training 2.0 per se and the season came about, that they're both physically and mentally prepared for the season, and they weren't throwing 100 pitches and blowing their arms out because these 3-4 months that they took off. They were taking it easy and being lazy throughout that time, and then the spring training 2.0 was just not enough time to get prepared for the intensity of a regular game in the regular MLB season.
Yeah, I mean, I think these guys are professionals, so I'd say for the most part, I don't think anybody's taking it easy. I'm sure it happened here and there. And maybe, people thought, oh, we're not playing this season.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not going to do anything. But, I think it was a weird schedule. And that's, April, May, June, basically 3-4 months is a long time to try and maintain, your training, so to speak, without overdoing it. So, it's almost like, I guess if you could do it over again, you would almost want to like go into the season,
Yeah.
or at least train like you're in the season during those months where nothing's going on, and try and like stress yourself and stress your body so you can get used to. Because those first couple months, like,
Yeah.
in a way, you're still getting in shape, you're still getting in the swing
Right.
of things. So, yeah, so I think that's why.
Yeah, and another thing I just thought of was maybe because these during spring training 2.0, they didn't have enough time to ramp up as much as they should have,
Right.
where they start off with, we'll just say 40 pitches in a game, and then they just keep building up and building up. Maybe they didn't have enough time to rebuild their strength and rebuild their pitch count into the season, but that could be a possible reason. But I'm sure it's just
Yeah.
a whole bunch of different reasons, and these players not being used to this different format of spring training 2.0, a shortened spring training, and then transitioning into a regular MLB season and having to pitch 100 pitches, just give or take.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the sole reason I think. And now that we wrapped that up, let's transition into talking about the Lucas Giolito no hitter that he threw here in 2020 just recently. He threw a no hitter. That was the first one of 2020. That was the first one for the White Sox since a perfect game thrown a while back. But yeah, Lucas Giolito has a lot of potential. If he's not, he's already a number 1, 2 guy for the White Sox. He's going to be in the future, future ace for sure in the MLB. And the White Sox sure do have a lot of potential with Yoan Moncada, Tim Anderson as well. We saw a big play out of Tim Anderson when he was shifting over towards second base during that game. So it seems like there's always 1 or 2 plays. Christian, you and I talked about this a little earlier. There's always those 1 or 2 plays that the fielders make in a no-hitter that makes the no-hitter happen. Like it was Tim Anderson, and I think it was the 7th inning, that play I just mentioned, that slow roller up the middle when he was shifting towards second base, and then the tailing line drive, that last out, that wasn't an easy catch. It might have looked easier than it actually was, but I'm sure a lot of the baseball players know that's not an easy catch to make 95 plus off the bat, and it's tailing away from you. So plus added pressure, so that's a big
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah, I went back and watched, the each out of the no hitter. And by the way, did you know that I think the White Sox actually have the second most no hitters
oh really?
all time? I can't remember who
Okay.
the first was, but I thought that was interesting. But
Yeah.
yeah, he had a pretty rough season pretty recently and made some mechanical changes to come back this year. His stuff looks really good. He basically did it through a no hitter on basically 2 pitches, which
Yeah.
is pretty incredible. Just a fast, good hard fastball and a really good changeup. Um, but like you said, yeah, there were, in a no hitter, like you always hope that those trickier plays take place in the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
It's definitely more exciting when it takes place, in the sixth,
Yeah.
seventh inning. But yeah, that last line drive, that's not an easy play.
No.
It was, like you said, a tailing, sinking line drive.
Yeah.
And, I guess in a way, the right fielder, I think it was Engel, he knows he's going
Yeah.
after that catch. Like
Yeah.
maybe in a different situation, maybe you're kind of in between thinking, should I play it in front, make sure,
Yeah.
it's not a triple or something. But it being the last out of a no hitter, like it's do or die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a way, it was almost like the decision was already made for him. But it,
Yeah.
it was fun to watch nonetheless.
And you know damn well, like right before the pitch was thrown, each of those fielders, the infielders, outfielders, the catcher, everyone knows that there's a no hitter going on. Obviously, no one
Oh yeah,
mentioned it because the famous jinx. No one wants to jinx it, but everyone knows that the no hitter's going on. And they do not want to be the one that messed it up. If Engel would have tripped there, that would have been considered a hit.
right.
If he would have dove on that play, it would have been considered a hit. But it turned out for the best for Lucas and in the White Sox, and he's still very young, and that's awesome for him. He's been working hard in the minors, and he went through a tough stint like you mentioned last year. But now that we wrapped up those 2 topics, let's transition into the Gordon Beckham appearance.
What's up, everybody? Today we are joined by probably the most accomplished guy we've had on here to date, infielder Gordon Beckham. He's an Atlanta native, went to the University of Georgia, absolute legend there, as I heard about a lot when we played together. He was a freshman in 2006, led Georgia to the College World Series. Was a freshman All-American that year. Was a junior SEC Player of the Year, All-American, finalist for the NCAA Player of the Year and Golden Spikes Award. Was drafted 8th overall by the White Sox that year. Didn't have much of a minor league career. Made his debut about a year later and was voted that year AL Rookie of the Year by the Players Association. Was a regular at the White Sox until 2014 when he was traded to the Angels. Bounced around quite a bit. We met each other and played together in 2017 with the Mariners, I believe. But spent some time with White Sox, Braves, Giants, Tigers, Padres, most recently the Mets. Also, big news, he and his wife Brittany just had their first child recently, so congratulations are in order. He's got the dad strength now. Beck, thanks for coming on with us.
Absolutely, man. Happy to be on. And the dad strength apparently doesn't matter now because now I'm probably retired. And
Okay.
so, I got it just a little too late. I mean, I could have had it. I could have had a couple more homers probably.
Yeah, well, you were. I was reading because obviously I said I heard a lot about your college career. more jokingly, but what I didn't realize was in 2008 that was your last minor league at bat, or minor league college at bat. You tied what was the guy's name from LSU?
I think Matt Clark.
Matt Clark. The reason I know that is because we were playing LSU in the Super Regional that year when I was at Irvine, and he was this big donkey left-hander.
Big guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way I should have been tied for the lead in home runs in the NCAA, especially when you saw the guy I was tied with.
Right.
He probably had me by 100 pounds and
yeah,
at least half a foot. So
yeah,
man. I tried to brag as much as I possibly could when we roomed together in 2018. It's hilarious. Like in 2017, it was the first time back in the minors since I got called up, like you said, real quick, and it was the first time back. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna room with anybody, And it's funny when you get back there, the next year we ended up rooming together, and it was just one of those things. I'm like, I'm not gonna get my own room. It's like ridiculous, Like it's one of those things where you kind of like you finally check your ego, like, okay, well, I guess I'm here right now. I might as well just embrace it. And man, you were my roommate. I like to sleep about 12 hours longer than you every day. But the beautiful thing about that is every time I'd get up, I'd have a great cup of coffee because of you. And obviously you're roasting beans now. Yeah, perfect. I've been crushing your beans. They're already gone. So I need to get a new shipment going. But
yeah, I got you. But yeah, so, I mean, there aren't a lot of guys who had a career path like you did. I mean, you were drafted. Did you play at all that year that you were drafted?
So I was one of the first to kind of have this like really quick trajectory. Evan Longoria was I think a year or two ahead of me, and he was kind of the same thing. Like he got called up within a year and was playing the big leagues, and I believe, the next year, the kind of the same thing. I got drafted in June, and then I didn't play until August, probably 15th or 18th, and we probably had like 2 or 3 weeks left in the season. So I ended up going to Low A Kannapolis and played 3 weeks there, and then a couple weeks off, went to Instructs for 2 weeks, and then went to the fall league. So I played really well in the fall league. So
you tore it up there.
Yeah, I had a good fall league, and I was one of the guys that were on like the I forget the name of what you are when you play like Wednesday and Saturday or something. You don't play like every day. Like some of the guys are priority guys that play every day, but I was was supposed to only play like 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
because I guess I was young and there were some other prospects. But
You're a
when I
China
got
doll.
there, what's that?
You were a China doll.
Yeah, they couldn't break me. But when I got in there, I played well, and then the next year I started in Double A and played 2 months there. Or about 2 months, I guess, until like May, the end of May, and then got called up to Triple A for 10 days. Started playing third base, and then got called up to the big leagues. So it was crazy, that looking back at that. But now that's kind of the norm. A lot of guys do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you think that like you were prepared adequately when you got there, or would you have liked a little more time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I had no idea what I was doing. Meaning like I was just kind of in, just show up mode and do it.
Right.
And I think that it was really good, obviously, to get there. I think it was for my development, though. I think it was definitely tough because in 2010, I struggled in the first half. That was my second year, and then played really well the second half. So it was kind of like one of those things where that seed of doubt kind of got in my head a little bit, like, oh, wow, this can go bad. I mean, I was hitting like 208 at the All-Star break, and I went like 3 for 4 to go to 215 the day before the All-Star break, and ended up hitting over 300 in the second half, and everything was good. But it was like that seed of doubt. And then in 2011, I just struggled kind of the whole year. I was kind of mediocre the whole year. Now defensively, I started to really play well. Like I had probably my best defensive year of my career in 11, 12, and 13. Like I was really playing good defense, so saving runs. And that's probably the reason I stayed in the big leagues, honestly, because I was able to save runs in my glove. And but I think that looking back at it, I wish almost that I had been sent down and just kind of given a second to take a breath. And because when my wheels started spinning, like in 2011, starting to struggle, it was one of those things where it's like, I just needed to be able to like kind of unwind and take a break and step back and be like, okay, it's going to be all right. Like, I'm going to figure out my swing a little bit, like, and with no pressure, because that was like very prevalent in Chicago, obviously a big market. I was their guy. I mean, I remember when I got called up, I mean, the paper said the savior is here. And I think it just like, I was like set up to fail in terms of that. I mean, like there was just so many high expectations. And then when I started to struggle and miss those expectations, instead of just understanding who I was and playing to my game and just being like, I'm going to get back to where I want to be, I started trying to meet those expectations of everybody else. And that's just kind of when it started to snowball, at least offensively. And the funny thing is the offense went down, the defense went up, which is once again why I kind of stuck around. But yeah, man, it was a grind. And I needed to have, like, it would have been nice to take a breath in the minor leagues just for 3 weeks, 2 weeks. And I don't know how I would have handled that, but I think it would have really given me like a shot across the bow type of moment. Like, you better figure it out, or, so it might have gotten me out of my own way a little bit.
Yeah. So when you were initially called up, would you say you had a lot of maybe added pressure on you, maybe to meet people's expectations and to perform at a certain level, because the hype, I'm trying to find the right word, the hype around you when you were initially called up was all high. So would you say you were pressured to meet a lot of expectations when you were initially called up?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of expectations initially when I got called up, but the crazy thing about that is like I met those expectations. I mean, my rookie year, I think I really struggled initially when I got called up, but then like 2 weeks in, I'm hitting like 150, but then all of a sudden I started to hit well. And for basically 3 months of the season, I hit 14 homers with like 63 something RBIs, and 63 RBIs was the most I ever had in the big leagues. And I did that in basically half a season. So it was one of those things, like I played really well, and the hype, I kind of justified the call up and the hype, but then like, when I started to struggle and I didn't reach those numbers, because those were really, really good numbers for half a season. And when I didn't start to reach those the next year, and then the next year, people were just, just was constant. I mean, I would go to charity events and like be doing something for the community, and people would be asking me when I'm going to start hitting. So it was just constantly like in my face. Like if I had a 3 for 3 game, I would get you know, and I would get asked, do you think you're turning it around now? And if I was 0 for 4 with a bad game, it's like, well, what went wrong? When do you think you're going to turn it around? And it just was one of those things where like I put enough pressure on myself, and with all the added extra pressure, I just kind of like, I mean, I was kind of like a duck on the water. Like I play it cool, and I could talk a good game, but it was one of those things where I just was spinning. You know, it was one of those things like I wanted to do so well, and I knew that everybody wanted me to do well, that I just kind of put too much pressure on myself. And yeah, I mean, it's just it is what it is. You know, pressure is a privilege, and it's one of those things where I welcomed it, but at the time I needed to probably step back and just relearn my swing, kind of redial into what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, as you started to bounce around after that, do you think, having played in the minor leagues after that, like when we played together, did you feel like you had more time to like do what you said? And, if you were in a bad spot, like be able to correct yourself without having all that outside, pressure and expectations coming in?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. Like I remember when I showed up in 17. I mean, I remember Daniel Vogelback, who's a great friend of mine. He like looked at me and was like, "Why are you here?" You know, and I remember, I'll never forget that, because I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, and he was like, "Why are you here? You've got like 7 years almost 8 years in the big leagues. Why are you here?" And I remember thinking about that. And I'm like, well, I'm 30 years old. Like I could just go home, or I could just stick it out and be like, you know what, like let's relearn how to do. And so to answer your question, yeah, but I don't think it really happened. I don't think I really decided to make a strong change until before the 2018 season. So I played with you basically all year. I got a September call up with the Mariners, and it was one of those things where I didn't have a great year in AAA. And so when I realized that I wasn't even hitting in AAA, I was like, okay, I need to figure something out. And so that offseason, I went to work with my father-in-law, who's a hitting coach, who was with the Rockies at the time. And we went to work, and we just started relearning the swing, trying to figure out what works best for me. And 2018, the season, that was probably my best career.
Yeah, I remember. You were absolutely raking.
Yeah, I hit basically all year, and I got caught, I was up and down with the big league team. So, even through that, I mean, I'd come back and I'd hit. And it was one of those things where it's like, I finally it's on me that I didn't do that until 2018. But I always had this, it was always like kind of this, like scale. Like a lot of people were talking to me about my swing and mechanics. Okay. And so I started thinking real mechanical. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I need to just focus on being an athlete and get in the box and just see it and hit it. But what I realized is I was either too mechanical, or when I tried to get in the box and just be an athlete, my mechanics were not good. They were not holding up. And so I realized after the 2017 season, like mechanically, I'm not good when I'm thinking about it, but I'm also not good mechanically in general with my swing to where it plays out. And so that's when I just started to do all the work in 2018. And then from then and 2018 and then 2019 with the Tigers, I actually played pretty well. I mean, obviously the Tigers, I started out really well in 2019, but when you're playing every third or fourth day, it's not obviously easy to keep a feel. But I grinded through that season and did some good things when I was in there. So I feel like the work was justified at that point.
Yeah. It's tough. I think, I encountered that the last couple of years as well. It's like you're caught between, I've done things a certain way and it's gotten me this far. Do I really want to completely change that?
Right.
And it's like, so it sounds like in 2018, you eventually just said, screw it, I got nothing to lose now.
Yeah, well, I knew that I either had to change something and figure something out, or I was going to be done.
Yeah.
And I think that was really the mindset of me. And the good thing is I never lost that competitive mindset. Like I always wanted to be good. Even when I wasn't great, like I still wanted to be good. I wanted to play the game the right way. I wanted to show up and be a good teammate. Like that was important to me. And so that's what ended up getting me another year in the big leagues. I mean, with the Tigers in 2019, I was not supposed to make that team. They gave me no chance to make that team. I found out later after, I obviously made it and played the whole year with them. But in spring training, when they signed Josh Harrison, I was basically not going to make the team. Right. And I ended up just going out there and just being myself and ended up making the team and spend the whole year with them. So, we weren't very good. It was pretty frustrating. But I was there and trying to help young guys and mold young minds,
Right.
And got a lot of practice with that in AAA Tacoma.
Yes. So, Gordon, like we've mentioned, you obviously played on many major league teams throughout your MLB career. Would you at all say that it was ever hard for you mentally to go from team to team to team at all throughout your career?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that I kept getting opportunities, and I think that, I really appreciate, the Mariners for giving me an opportunity in 17, 18 to continue my career, because even then there wasn't a whole lot of demand for me to play. And, it was one of those things where I always saw it, once I left the White Sox, I always saw it as an opportunity to make a good impression, on somebody. And I knew that there was opportunity when people were giving you a chance. And so that was it. I actually kind of think it's fun, to be on different teams. Obviously I spent a lot of time with the White Sox, like 7 years with them, and it was an amazing time. And I really appreciate all the time I spent there. But it was, I got to meet a lot of different people throughout this, Christian being one of them that I would have never met if I had kept on my trajectory with the White Sox and just stayed there the whole time. So right. It gave me a lot of perspective, and it really humbled me. I was pretty humbled, before I got to AAA, but like AAA, getting back there, like that was really kind of like a humbling experience, and it really taught me how to be a better teammate. I think that was probably the biggest thing, is like not be so focused on myself, not be selfish, just be a solid teammate, show up for your buddies. And the greatest thing that was ever said, and Christian, you remember this, is Perkins, when he said, "You're like the Benjamin Button of baseball." It was the funniest thing I've ever heard. Everybody started dying laughing. He said that because I started off basically in the big leagues and then kind of went back to the minor leagues. And it was a brilliant, he was a funny guy, but that was a brilliant statement.
Yeah, no, it's really a testament to your character too, because that's not an easy thing to do. I didn't have as long a big league career as you did, but it's hard to go from all the perks of being in the big leagues back to the lack of perks in the minor leagues.
Yeah, the penthouse to the outhouse, and it's amazing the separation between the two.
Yeah, and I never got the impression, like, it's very easy to become bitter and jaded and like you said, be selfish and not pay attention to other people. I at least never got that impression with you. Like, you were there to work, and you weren't the types of guys that do that. Like, they're out there, some of them do that. Oh, yeah. And you were never really like that. So
well, there's no, I feel like if you are like that, and I feel like there are a lot of guys like that in big leagues, and as soon as they start to struggle, they're gone. Nobody wants those guys around. Like, nobody wants to be around guys that are just selfish and focused on themselves. When it's, when it's going good, it's going great. And when it's going bad, it's only about them. And I feel like early in my career, it probably was a little bit like that, because I was young and didn't understand that. But like, as you get older, you understand like kind of what it means to be a solid teammate, show up for your guys, and really just be a pro. That's the best way to put it. You just show up and you be a pro. When when you're a drafted player, you get signed to a minor league deal, you're a pro. You're in the previews, as Bogey would say, but you're a pro. And so you better show up and act like it, because if you don't, you're not going to get the opportunity. So,
right.
Yeah, most definitely.
And the thing when I talk to guys who, because it seems like all my friends now are retiring, in addition to me, they all say the same thing. It's like, you don't remember the games. You don't remember, you remember some things here and there. The thing you end up missing the most is being with the guys and like traveling around and, just being with your teammates. So
yeah, you miss the stupidity of each day, like little moments where you like would never, you would never think about, but it's generally just the clubhouse. That's where it's all about. I mean, that's where you still have feel like you're kind of a kid. I mean, we're like grown men playing a kid's game, and it's kind of a beautiful thing if you embrace it, but then you have the guys that don't embrace it and they're just, bitter bobs. And I definitely could have been that, but I just didn't want to be like that. I mean, that's not how I live my life. It's not, we talk a lot about faith and stuff. I think that it all kind of ties in together, with who you want to be. I mean, who do you want to be? You show up and be that person every day.
All right.
And let's turn it back a little even before Georgia, where you attended the Westminster School and you actually played both safety and quarterback. Do you think?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Do you think the athleticism and maybe conditioning from football maybe converted to the diamond and benefited you on the diamond as well?
I'm so glad you brought this up. I love talking about high school football. This is great. I think that the funny thing is I was probably better at football than I was at baseball at the time. Like I was just instinctually, I was just better. My dad played quarterback at South Carolina. I kind of grew up in a football family. So I played free safety and I played quarterback. I kind of did a lot of different things my junior and sophomore year. I kind of played quarterback and receiver and running back on the offense. But as a senior, I played free safety and quarterback, and I was obviously got those all-state honors and stuff, which was really cool. I got letters from every college around the country, which was kind of cool. But I think that I realized that for me to be, to go on and play in a professional aspect, I kind of needed to switch to baseball. My size now would be more normal with Russell Wilson and some of these guys that are a little shorter, and I might be even taller than those guys that I'm definitely not as fast. But I think it did help. It gave me a mentality of work ethic mentality. And I think that's always the thing that I tied to myself with baseball is it's about the work. It's about your preparation for the game. Like I always wanted to work really hard at baseball, and football kind of came easy to me. So it was, I just enjoyed playing football in high school with my friends. I mean, it was a lot of fun to do, and it kind of I do think it prepared me to not be so focused on baseball going to college. That way, when I got to college, it was when I just focused on baseball, I got like a ton better because of that focus. And, I think that there's a case to be made for playing one sport in high school, but I also think that playing the other sport gave me the mentality to be really good in baseball.
Okay. At what point did you really realize that, baseball could be something that, could be your career path in the future and you could take to a prestigious school like Georgia in college?
Yeah, I think I almost quit baseball after my sophomore year of high school. I played we played like 100 and something games, and it was in the summer, and I just wasn't very good. I played every day. I made errors all the time. I started switch hitting that summer, and I just didn't really like the game. And then I got to play for a team called the East Cobb Yankees, and I had a coach that I really respected there, and kind of got me back into having fun playing the game. And that's when I started to realize I could probably play in college. And I don't know if I ever really thought I could play in the big leagues. I just think that I always was really competitive with other people. Like everybody would say that so-and-so is better than Gordon. This guy's a better player than him, and he hits better, and he's a better fielder, he's a better prospect, and all that stuff. And I think that always drove me, because I always kind of had a chip on my shoulder thinking that like I'm better than that guy. And so that's what drove me to work, because I wanted to prove that I was better as a player. And I think that's really what got me to get to where I got, and as quickly as I did, because I always wanted to be the best. Yeah.
Okay. And to wrap it up, Gordon, what would you say is maybe one thing that a lot of people wouldn't know about you? It can be on or off the diamond.
And if you don't know, if you can't think of anything, I've got one. So
Well, then go. I can't think of anything.
No. I don't want to give you a chance.
Well, I mean, the thing that I'm really passionate about is hunting. I love hunting. I think that people know this about me. That if you know me, then you probably know this. But I love to bow hunt whitetails in Georgia, and that's kind of my passion outside of baseball. Really close with my dad. I just had a son. It's one of those things where I'm excited to share that, pass that on with him. But I am interested to see what Christian was thinking.
Well, here's something not many people know about you that I have the privilege of knowing. Gordon does one of the best Creed impressions I
Oh,
have
no.
ever heard.
Let's hear it.
So
Oh, no.
just give us just a little tidbit. You don't have to go the whole song like we used to do in the room, but
Yeah, to you. I basically creedify everything. If I'm going to sing, I creedify. My family knows this. It's just one of those things I kind of picked up, and so it's basically all you're trying to do is, I'm laughing.
give me a with arms wide open.
Yeah, so you just want to try to get in that mode of Creed, and well, I just heard the news today. And then at the end of everything, you have to keep it going. So the news today seems my life is gonna change. So you basically just, yeah.
Beck, you just over delivered.
I
That was beautiful.
under promised with that, but I did over deliver. I'm a great Creed. I really can do it. I'm a great Creed guy. The funny thing is that with arms wide open now, I can actually sing that with Jet, my kid, because that's what he's singing about. That's what Creed's singing about. It's like, I'll show you. I'll show you everything. If I had only one wish, only one demand. So it's actually funny. My brother-in-law came over the other day and started singing that to him, in his Creed voice. Yeah. So
that's awesome, man. Well, hey, I'll let you go. We appreciate you coming on and chatting with us.
Anytime.
Good to see you again.
Anytime. If y'all come up with some more questions, I'm always game. You know that. But it's been a pleasure, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, man, you too. Thanks.
Thanks, Gordon.
All right, guys. See y'all.
See ya.
And now that we wrapped up that amazing guest appearance of Gordon Beckham, let's transition into the fan question for this week. The fan question is, should Trevor Bauer have been accused of a punishment if he wore the Free Joe Kelly cleats? My initial reaction to him being accused of being punished if he wore them is I wouldn't have agreed with the punishment. Rob Manfred and the MLB said how they were going to be free about wearing cleats, and the MLB is going to let the players do a lot of stuff that they wanted with their cleats, and obviously that's kind of going against what they said, but that's just my initial reaction. Christian, do you think he should have been punished if he wore them?
Well, the first thing I thought was, according to like the uniform regulations and stuff, they'd probably have him on that. But then you just mentioned that that they were loosening the rules so that the players could have their own brand and identity and stuff. And I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
So why this would be any different, I don't know.
Yeah.
If they want to let the players do that, which they should, within reason, maybe. But yeah, I don't. If that's what you say you're going to do, you can't, pick and choose which ones you want to allow and which ones you don't.
Yeah, maybe
I thought it was hilarious when I saw it.
Yeah, it's adding entertainment to the game, and I think that's really what baseball needs. Like, they're trying to limit down game times, and because of the entertainment factor, and they're saying baseball's going downhill, the MLB's going downhill, and the rest of the sports are going uphill, and baseball's falling down in the ranks because the games are so long and it's not as entertaining and drama filled. But
I don't buy that.
Yeah,
I think, because look, an NFL game is 3 hours.
Yeah.
With all the commercials and timeouts and all that stuff. let's face it, people have shorter attention spans.
Yeah.
So I think they're more emotionally involved with an NFL season because it's shorter. But
Right.
they'll create, and it's one game a week. So, they'll create an event, you know, uh, out of watching a football game. Baseball is a completely different animal. It's,
Right.
normally 6 months long. The games, yes, they've trended longer, but I think if which is what they're trying to do, they're trying to shave it down to under 3 hours again. I don't think just because you do that, you all of a sudden raise your viewership.
Right.
You
Yeah.
either like baseball or you don't, but you're not going to decide, oh, this is a sport that takes less than 3 hours. I'm all in. That's not how people think.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of like people sharing, stuff through social media and stuff, like, yeah, if you let guys wear cleats like that speak to something that's going on, yeah, people will talk about it more, and maybe people will be more likely to tune in. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I think they should have let him wear it.
yeah, me too. I think unless the cleats throwing hate or shade at someone, which I don't think the cleats were, they were just
Well, it's throwing shade at Major League Baseball.
yeah, I guess you could take that side. Um,
No wonder they didn't allow it.
yeah. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of the Walk It Off podcast on Walk It Off Wednesday. I appreciate you guys tuning in this far with us talking about Lucas Giolito, more injuries here in 2020, getting the amazing guest appearance of Gordon Beckham as he does his best impression of Creed towards the end of that guest appearance, as well as him talking about his football career before he went to Georgia, his amazing career at Georgia, and his MLB career as well. Christian, you have anything else to add?
Oh, that's it. Looking forward to next week.
Yeah, most definitely. Make sure you guys drop your fan questions for next week as well, and stay tuned for next week's guest appearance too.